Okay, very good morning to all of you. Sir, can you start? Sir, are you getting me? Asif, sir.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, sir. So let me introduce first, sir.
Yeah.
Okay, thank you very much, sir. So very good morning once again, all the participants, and most welcome to our next research person, Mr. Asif Mohammed, sir. So Asif Mohammed, sir, has over 22 years of experience in the industry. Asif, sir, started his career with SCL and later worked with HP for the next decade, managing teams in USA, Singapore, China. Asif sir later was running in a startup in the healthcare space. He also now running his own venture fund, investing in various startups and advising various companies in semiconductor, embedded, and healthcare space. He has passion for technology in the semiconductor and automotive space. Now he's working as the CMO Kodikaji Innovations. So we are most welcome, sir. And sir is going to deliver his talk on the impact on the automotive sector. So please, sir.
Yeah, thanks. Thanks for the introduction and welcome everybody for the presentation. And I hope this is going to be an interesting, 1 hour session for you, and you're going to learn a lot. Right. So everybody is able to hear me?
Yes, sir. It is audible, sir.
Okay, great. So if you have any questions, you feel free to ask, and there's a chat window, of course, which is there, right? So using that, you can type in a question. So what I would need help is, Shashank, is what you can do is whenever there is a question, you can prompt me out and tell me broadly in between, and I can kind of answer that question if there is something in between, right?
Okay, sir. Sir, after you're delivering your lecture, then we'll go for the question round.
Okay, yeah, I'm okay. If we can also make it an interactive session, doesn't need to be one-way communication. So as
Okay,
long as you
okay.
have questions, feel free to ask. Right.
Okay, sir.
So yeah, can you see my slide now?
Yes, sir. It is visible, sir.
Yeah. So basically, see, one of the, when I got a request for having this presentation, right? So one of the requests was, where is the SOC going, right? And what is the next market in the next decade in terms of future of SOCs, right? So what I wanted to do was, cover up a topic, right, where it will be of a lot of interest to most of you in terms of the automotive sector, right? So what we know is automotive sector is going to have a lot of growth. So currently, the semiconductor market is somewhere around $450 billion, right? And the market in the next 10 years is maybe it will touch close to like a trillion. At least it will touch like say $750 billion, and it will touch to close to a trillion by 2030, right? And there have been a lot of factors for growth right now, right, in the semiconductor space. And one of the growth component is definitely automotive sector, right? And automotive sector is at the moment, semiconductor growth is just kind of taking off. It's pretty much at early stages right now, and it's going to grow significantly over the next decade, right? So one of the things which I think in terms of semiconductor and SOC, right, we are pretty much in the golden era of semiconductor design at the moment, right? I mean, if you are in semiconductor, this is the best time in the world to be in semiconductor domain, right? We've never seen the kind of growth in semiconductor ever in the last 30, 40 years, right? So this is the best time to be in semiconductors, and the maximum amount of growth is going to come in terms of semiconductors. For example, right now we are having this Zoom meeting, right? I'm sitting at my home and doing this call, and you're able to see to me, right? So what it means is there is the data center which is actually processing this video request and doing the delivery and so on, right? And all of them are connected through a laptop. So just imagine, just for this meeting, I see around like close to some 70, 80 people or maybe 100 people kind of logging into through their systems and trying to connect. And this is all enabled by semiconductors, right? So So I'm really happy at the moment that I'm part of the semiconductor ecosystem and we are part of the growth story and what is kind of happening, right? So let's kind of quickly dig into the detail of, how does SOC apply in automotive sector, right? So as we move forward, right? So one of the things a lot of people need to understand is with respect to what is level of autonomous cars, right? See, many times people, when you start talking to them, right? Right, they start talking about like a self-driving car, and sometimes people talk about, okay, my car has already got some kind of a auto transmission and it can, it can drive on it. I don't need to change the gear, right? So so there were a lot of companies working on different spaces, right? And they were calling, their cars are autonomous cars, right? So there was a kind of a good amount of confusion over the industry over the last decade, right? So what has happened is the automotive space, right? They have kind of clearly defined what does a level of autonomous cars mean, right? So what it means is level 0 is where a driver is driving a car, right? I mean, this is like our normal Maruti 800 or Maruti whatever Swift, or depending on what kind of car people are driving. It's a very basic car that people are driving, right? And level 5 is where there is no passenger. Passenger is pretty much, you can either say sleeping or sitting or reading a book, and the car is driving, right? So this is the fully autonomous car, right? So this is the most confused definition when you talk about autonomous car, right? People are like, so level 0 is where, fully driver control. He's changing the gear, he's changing the brakes, he's looking at how to navigate the car. Level 5 is where the car is driven without any manual intervention. The machine itself is driving the car, right? So this is called the level 5, right? So in between level 0 and level 5, there are various levels, like level 1, level 2, level 3, and level 4. Now, what are these level 1, level 2, level 3, and level 4, right? Level 1 is where I think a lot of people, some of you may have, like if you have a Volkswagen or a Honda, which is like a, auto transmission car, or if you've driven a car in the US and so on, right? I mean, most of the cars do not have gears, right? I mean, so where you have pretty much the feet is off the car, right? You're managing only the steering and the car is going on its own, right? I mean, and you manage the acceleration as in when required, right? You don't need to do that, right? And level 2 is where, you're kind of taking away the hands. Like some of the cars, even in the US at the moment, right? At least the high-end ones, like when you're driving on the highway or something like that, right? Where they support a partially automatic mode, right? Where you don't have to like a cruise control and so on, right? Where you don't have to actually hold the steering wheel and the car kind of goes on its own, right? So that's pretty much there, right? So if you look at where we are in the era of say 2020 is where probably level 2 is where most, I mean, it depends on the kind of car you have. If you have a very basic, like a Maruti kind of car, or the low end car, or if you're in the slightly mid-range and high-end Mercedes and, so on, you're probably in the level 2, right? But most of the cars are pretty much in the level 1, level 2 kind of segment, right? And by the year of 2030 is where we will reach a fully autonomous kind of car, right? So now what is happening is when you talk about level 3, it's like a highly automated car, like highly automatic. What it means is you don't even have to manage the steering, you don't even have to manage the acceleration, and the car keeps driving on its own. And level 4 is a fully automatic one where you don't even have to think about where it's going, but you still need to keep watching the car, in terms of in case if there is a kind of confusion which direction it needs to take and so on, right? So, and this becomes a fully autonomous car, and we will probably reach here in the year of 2025, and by the year we reach 2030 is where we will have most of the cars which are autonomous, right? So if you look at in this, right, so there is a clear transfer of responsibility, right? So earlier it was fully human control, now it is fully machine control. And over the next decade or over the next few years, as the car manufacturers and the OEMs are kind of working on, there is a transfer of responsibility from the human to the machine. and finally you become totally dependent on the machine, right? So this is the kind of journey. So if you look at any car or any car manufacturer, right, you can kind of clearly ask them, which is the level of car which you are working on, right? And this also helps standardize across the industry in terms of, okay, are you working on a level 2 car, are you working on a level 3 kind of car, are you working on level 4 car and level 5 car? And it also helps the architect, it also helps the system integrators develop the rest of the ecosystem in the car, right? So this is called level of autonomous, right? So I hope, because see, when you talk about automotive industry, it's a highly regulated industry, and people need to understand a lot of aspects, right? Any questions here, feel free to ask, or you want to wait till the end. I'm happy to wait till the end. So please let me know. So any doubts on this, or have people understood these kind of jargons which I'm talking about? Okay, there's no response. So I'm hoping everybody is kind of clear about it then. So let me move forward. Yeah, so the problem with this online session is, right, you don't get a lot of feedback, right? So you just need to keep going, right? So yeah, so now coming to the market size, right? So one of the things is when we talk about semiconductors, when we talk about, we are all in the business, right? Is where the maximum, growth happens, right? So when you talk about the market share, right? So what I wanted to get an idea, right? So semiconductor, market size for automotive electronics in the year 2020 is somewhere around $255 billion, right? It's fairly big. There are lots of sensors, there are lots of semiconductor chips inside that, right? But that is not what is interesting, right? What is interesting is in the year of 2030, right, the market size for electronics in the car is going to grow at like somewhere around 640 billion, right? That is what I said, majority of the next decade semiconductor growth, which is going to, last decade was 2010 was mobile, and 1990s was computers and laptops. 2030 is going to be cars, right? Automotives, right? Automotive segments, right? Is probably going to be the biggest segment where the maximum amount of growth is going to come, right? So there's as all industries continue to grow, and as the market size becomes very interesting, a lot of players enter into the ecosystem, and they want to kind of take some small piece of the market share, right? So one thing is the market, this is a projected or a forecast number, right? For people to understand, right? So that's like $640 billion, right? That's a pretty big amount of number for people to chase and capture. Okay, so this is where almost all the companies, if you see the players like Renaissance, players like NXP, everybody is trying to enter into that particular space and trying to see how much percentage of the market can they capture. Okay, now coming to the system flow, right? So one of the things, as I said, automotive industry is not like a regular industry, right? It's a fairly regulated industry, right? So what you have is when you talk about semiconductor players, right, where do these semiconductor players come in the ecosystem, right? Most people do not understand it. So they think that car manufacturers are the ones who use semiconductors. But that is not how the the automotive industry works, right? So what you have is, you have basically three pillars or three players in the ecosystem, right? One is the semiconductor players, the next is the OEM players, and the next is the car manufacturers like Audi, Volkswagen, Ford, and so on, right? Mercedes and so on, right? These are the car manufacturers, and this is where we go to their dealership and we go and buy their cars from them, right? And then what you have is, on the other end of the spectrum, what we have is, we have the companies like Renaissance, NXP, Infineon, right? These are the semiconductor or the SoC companies, right, which make the semiconductors, right? And in between them, right, this is fairly very important. And the companies, there are these companies called OEM companies, right? Companies like Continental, Bosch, Aptiv, Valeo. Aptiv, by the way, is getting purchased by another company, right? So all these other companies are using the semiconductor produced by Renaissance and XP and Infineon and some of the other kind of companies, and creating the systems and selling that particular system to the car manufacturers. And the car manufacturer has an option to buy various kind of systems from various players, like for example, the electronics, some infotainment system can come from Aptiv, the ADAS system can come from Valeo, the power electronics can come from Bosch, and some of the other piece of electronics can come from lighting system, can come from Continental. So all these guys, what they do is the car manufacturer does the system integration kind of a job, where he buys various systems from various players and he creates the car which is kind of sold, and people who want to buy the car can come and buy the car, right? So this is how the current the active ecosystem of the whole industry of automotive industry is organized, right? But there are exceptions, right? I mean, there are exceptions which are happening and which are disrupting the market at the moment, right? For example, car manufacturers like Tesla, right? So what they are doing is, they're pretty much vertically integrated, right? Kind of, almost. So they are combining the auto manufacturing and even the OEM together, right? Because they're not depending on any of the OEM, because they're trying to create some new or innovative set of cars, right? So, and they are also making their own chipsets, right? So they are pretty much kind of entering into a space where there is going to be a vertical integration of all the three of them, and rather than go into the system integration part of the solution. But there will be kind of an overlap at times. We'll have to really see how 2030 looks like and how the industries are over the next few years, right? So, but the point here to be taken is there is a semiconductor player, there is a OEM player, then there is finally a car manufacturer who actually produces the car, right? So, and this is a very important understanding, because most people try to talk to car manufacturers when they talk, right? But that's not where the most of the work is, right? Either you have to be talking to the OEM or you have to talk to the semiconductor companies, right? And this is where, if you have I've been publishing a lot of LinkedIn articles on in terms of a supply chain disruption in the semiconductor space, and Volkswagen and some of the car manufacturers not able to get the right kind of semiconductor parts, because they are not kind of vertically integrated and they do not actually have any influence on the semiconductor ecosystem, right? So of course, we will see a lot of disruption happening in this particular system integration flow, where you might also see companies like Volkswagen directly working with the semiconductor companies, in order to get better supply chains and so on, right? But they were always dependent on companies like OEM companies. Any questions here, guys? I mean, feel free to ask, or if you have, I will just wait for a minute. I hope this part of the slide is fairly clear.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Okay. So now let me move to the next slide, right? Now coming to the electronic share in the car, right? So if you looked at somewhere around 1970, probably I was also not born, many of you were not born, I don't know, somewhere born probably, is where, the automotive electronics, right? The electronics contributed 5% of the car, right? So what happened during that time, car is more likely like mechanical system with a lot of wiring harness, and like if anybody has seen, I remember seeing my premium Padmini with some of my neighbors, and it's pretty much a mechanical system. Anybody can manage some wiring harness and fix it, right? Then over the years, I mean, the next few years, like electronics was kind of starting to play a role. It was almost like a 10% in the entire system, right? Right, and that was in 1980, right? Then as years went, in 1990, electronic share became 15%, right? I mean, as a part of so one thing which you need to understand, system cost, right? Electronic system as a cost of the total car, right? Right. That's what I mean. So for example, if the car costs like 5 lakh rupees, right? Or 10 lakh rupees, right? How the electronics in the car was almost like 5% of that, right? I mean, so it was like maybe like 5% of 5 lakh is like 50,000, right? At that point in time. But what is going to happen in the few years, that is in 2030, right? I've not put 2020 here, is if the cost of the car is like 10 lakh rupees, 5 lakh rupees worth of electronics is going to be there in that particular car, right? So so that is where, if you see in my previous slide, right, the maximum amount of growth is coming in the automotive industry, because the electronic subsystem or the electronic system, which is being part of the car, is going to be a significant amount of money it is going to be spent on that electronic system, right? So if you go to probably electronic or service showroom, right? Earlier you were replacing a lot of earlier you were replacing a lot of mechanical system, right? So what is going to happen is, the future, when you go to in 2030 or 2035, you go to a service station, they are going to remove a motherboard and put another motherboard into the system, right? So that's how it's going to happen, right? Most of the servicing will happen where electronics are major, which are going to be replaced, not the mechanical system, right? So this is a pretty significant amount of factor, right? I mean, 50% of your cost of your car is electronics, right? So all the people who are working in semiconductor, all the people working in electronics, I mean, this is like amazing opportunities. I mean, even for businesses to come and capture that particular market. I mean, if you are a lot of professors, you want to write a lot of papers, and a lot of system is going to be electronics, right? Pretty much. The way I imagine, right? I mean, it's pretty much like a data center running inside a car, right? Or if you can imagine, or it's something like a high-end mobile, pretty much running the car, right? Pretty much similar architectures in cars, automotive space, right? Okay, so the point here, takeaway is, the share of electronics in the total cost of the car is 50%. I mean, that's like mind-boggling for the ecosystem players, right? So it's kind of disrupting all the previous theories about or all the previous business models which were actually set around the ecosystem, right? Okay. Now, when you look at a car, right? Now I've been talking a lot of general gyan about electronics and so on, right? What are the various components in the car which are electronics, right? So let's quickly. I mean, for people who are not familiar, I mean, these people who know the automotive system, it will be very easy. But for people who don't know, right? So there are various parts of the systems which may contribute to the electronic system. Like, for example, the front view camera, right? Where you can actually see person sitting in the front. Some of the high-end cars have a night vision, and you have a surround view camera where you can actually see who is coming, and if you're driving in the night, you can, even if on the high-end car, you can actually see what's happening in the night. There is an emergency brake system, and there's a cruise control, which is also electronic. There is a cross traffic assist. There's a high beam control, which is also controlled by electronics. There's a blind spot detection, in order to drive you safely when you're crossing the 4-lane highways and all that. Some side impact analysis with respect to parking assistant when you're doing self-parking or reverse parking and so on, right? I mean, so the plenty of system which contribute to electronics in the car, right? And all these units, typically, they are called electronic control units, right? I've just taken one of those kind of a mid-range car and kind of shown as the cost, as the complexity of the car kind of starts growing, the number of electronics in the car also starts growing, right? So like the high-end car will have a lot of electronics, the low-end ones will have less electronics and so on, right? That's how current ecosystem is, right? But these are some of the electronics which are there in the car. Any questions here, or people have any view? Okay. Now coming to the ECU, right? So this is some jargon. I think many of you need to understand and figure out. So basically, ECU is nothing but electronic control unit, right? So this is what you have is this pretty much for people who, because most of you are VLSI or electronics, and this is pretty much like our board, which has got a semiconductor or which is got the electronic component, and it is packed inside the enclosure, so that it is resistant to any of the vibration, shocks, and all those things. Because see, a car, typically a lifetime of a car is like around 8 to 10 years, right? And people buy a car and they use for 8 to 10 years, right? And they drive using in the rain, some drive using in the snow, they drive. So electronic control unit is typically packed and put in a rugged system, right? So that it does not have any impact. Like it needs to be temperature, variation should not have an impact. Any of the radiation or in terms of rain, weather, nothing should have an impact. Needs to have a tight enclosure, right? So these are nothing but called the ECUs, right? So what you call electronic control unit, right? So what I said here also is some of these are nothing but electronic control units, right? Right. I mean, this is a very important definition when you're talking about the car, right? So if you look at, I will come down to this current EA architecture, right? If you look at the car at the moment, right? I mean, if there are close to like, earlier, or you can talk about the mainstream, right? There are 30 to 100 ECUs in the car, right? I mean, if you go to the high-end thing, right, there are close to like 1,000 ECUs in the car, right? I mean, that is where the all these components are kind of split around, right? Okay, but this was the older architecture, right? This was the older architecture in the car, right? But how does the architecture look in 2030, right? It's kind of a similar one, but there is a difference, right? So the entire car is divided into 4 domains, right? So infotainment domain controller, then you have the connectivity domain controller, you have the comfort and safety domain controller, you have the power train domain controller, you have ADAS, driving assistant system, right, domain controller, each of them connected via the gateway. So this is probably the architecture which is going to come in the next generation car, like the 2030 car, right? And there are these sensors, right? Like for example, like if you're talking about the infotainment system, right? So there is going to be a lot of sensors which are talking here, right? So let me come back here, right? So if you look at the architecture of the EA architecture of the car, right? So there is infotainment system. Now, what is this infotainment system for people to understand? Infotainment system is nothing but information plus entertainment system, right? So basically, when you're driving your car, you have your odometer, right? So how fast is your go, how fast you're going, what's your RPM, what are your various sensors in the car, are your brake lights on? So all those are basically the information which you are using in your car, right? Then apart from that, a lot of cars also have the entertainment system, right? Like for example, people have radios, people have GPS, and people have some of them can watch videos and so on, right? The combination of information and entertainment, right? That whole system is called the infotainment system, right? So you can imagine it like a big iPad at the moment, right? Or it's like a big amount of display which is there in the front panel of the car, right? Like an iPad or a smartphone kind of a display. And what you have is your odometers, which are there, right? Which are nothing but digital displays in those infotainment systems, right? So that's how the future of the car is going to be, right? So the entire, or you can imagine, 50% of the TV, I mean, if you have a, high-end TV, right? I mean, that kind of a system, which is pretty much managing your dashboard. I mean, I should have put some images here. I've not put. But anyways, I can explain it to you guys, right? The next is the ADAS system, right? Automatic driver assistance system, right? So the future cars, right? They're going to be, fully autonomous, right? So when you are talking about fully autonomous, what it means is they should be able to drive on their own. They need to see the roadblocks. They need to see the start sign. They need to see the stop sign. They need to see the pedestrian. They need to see some animals walking on the road. They need to know which turn to navigate and so on, right? So the entire control is managed by the ADAS system, right? So ADAS system is earlier it started with the radar. Next, it is like LiDAR is the technology which actually powers most of the ADAS kind of a system, right? The third part is the powertrain, right? Powertrain is basically managing your, how fast you're going in the car, acceleration, and so on, right? But there is definitely a shift in terms of the powertrain electronics, right? Because most of the cars are getting electrified, right? So you will have a powertrain which will be most likely managing the electric part of the system, right? How's your braking? What's your speed? How fast do you need to accelerate, and so on, right? The next part is the connectivity, right? As I said, this whole car looks like a data center, right? So what will happen is, as you're driving in your car, right? So a lot of sensors, which are ECUs, are going to log a lot of information parameters, right? Which are going to the subsystem, and finally there is going to be a lot of AI and edge processing which is going to happen on the car, and rest of the information is going to be pushed towards the cloud, and cloud is the one which is going to do the rest of the processing, right? And that is where the connectivity system plays a very significant amount of role, right? And the fourth part of the ecosystem in the car, is going to be comfort and safety, right? If you're talking about a high-end car, right? So different drivers have different driving profiles. Like, I like to have my seat a little forward. I like to have my mirrors on certain angles, and so on, right? So different people have different parameters, right? So the modern cars are going to have that on-build feature, right? The moment I log in, my profile is loaded in the car, and I'm able to configure the car based on my comfort level. If my wife is driving, she will have a different parameter for having the car, and she can kind of drive based on her height and her visibility, and so on, right? And of course, the safety, right? Safety, when do you actually have to eject the safety gears, and so on, right? What are the kind of safety controls which you need to have? What kind of parking assistant you need to have? What kind of reverse camera you need to have, right? All these are ensuring the comfort and safety for that particular kind of car, right? So, but broadly speaking, right, the car is going to be split up into the four main units: the infotainment system, the ADAS system, the powertrain, the connectivity, and comfort and safety. So this is how the future car is going to look like. You can just imagine like a data center, right? So what you have is, you have these sensors here, right? Small sensors which are talking to, say, ADAS controller. The ADAS controller is talking to the gateway, and this gateway is going to be on an automotive Ethernet. Right? We have all heard about Ethernet 100 base T, which is used in the traditional networking era, right? So what's going to happen here is, there is going to be a 100 base automotive Ethernet, which is going to talk to the gateway, and here there is going to be a switch. The switch, what it is going to do is, the information which needs to go to the cloud is going to get pushed to the cloud. The information which needs to go to the powertrain will get pushed to the powertrain. The information which needs to go to the comfort domain controller will get pushed there. The information which needs to get pushed or being accessed to the infotainment domain controller, it's going to be pushed here. And there is going to be lower levels. You can imagine, there will be like 50 sensors or 50 small ECUs across the infotainment system, domain controllers, probably working on an I3C interface or a I2C interface, and so on, right? Maybe a low-end interface, right? And there are again going to be 50 to 60 small kind of sensing solutions here, and another 50 to 60 kind of solutions here, and 50 to 60 solutions here. Sensors here, and 50 to 50 solutions here, right? And these are going to be the main subsystem, right? Now the connection is, I'm talking, and this is supposed to be a VLSI session, right? Where is the chip, right? Right. That's a question all of you should be asking, right? So, and what does that chip really look like, right? Right. Car looks interesting, electronics looks interesting, right? So what is interesting is, each of these system which I'm talking are nothing but an SoC, right? Each of them is an SoC, and I'm going to talk about architecture of each of those SoC, how it is going to look like, right? And let's move forward. So I hope you got your fundamentals right, and you're pretty much ready to navigate, right? So now let's look at the ADAS SoC, right? So ADAS SoC is going to be looking something like this, where you have an AXI or a AMBA bus, which kind of connects the entire system. So you're going to have a vision subsystem. Vision subsystem is, and there's going to be an embedded vision processor. There is going to be probably a MIPI and a couple of ADAC, DAC, and ADCs and all that, and a DSP engine, which will do the processing for that particular display. Of course, you need to have some kind of a high-end display also. So you may have an HDMI interface. You may also want to kind of accelerate your core. So you may have a graphics core which is inside. And this is the basic display management system, right? I mean, apart from that, there is going to be a connectivity piece. Like if you looked at the architecture here, right? The ADAS system, there's a connectivity to the gateway, right? So what is that connectivity to the gateway, right? So it's most likely it's going to be on Ethernet, right? Ethernet gateway. And future, there is a potential where we see a lot of evolution happening on the CXL interface. And in order to also have a chip-to-chip communication and high-speed communication, there is probably going to be PCI Express interface, which is going to be there, right? So this is the connectivity piece of the interface, which is there, which is talking to the car, right? And this part is the vision subsystem, which is responsible for managing the display in the car and also giving the high-speed display management, right? Apart from that, there needs to also be a storage, because what the ADAS is going to do is, some portion of the data is going to be stored locally, and some portion of the data is going to be pushed in the cloud. Right? So if you want to store data locally, eMMC is a good interface to have, and probably you can also have a flash, which is on the QSPI interface, right? And then what you have is you can also use UFS has been emerging as a very interesting standard, right? And I definitely see that as a go-to standard for storage controllers, right? I mean, because it can support, I think, up to like 4 to 5 gigabits per second, which is pretty high speed, and it's a serial interface as well, right? So we see eMMC has its own challenges. UFS is definitely going to be there, and QSPI is another interface which is going to be there, right? And there needs to be some couple of gears which needs to be put for safety, because this is an automotive subsystem, right? And apart from that, in order to manage in-house function of the chip, right, you have your maybe an ARM processor, and in order to talk to the memory, you have LPDDR4 or 5, right? And there is a cache and a processing subsystem, right? So if you look at the modern ADAS subsystem, right, this is how the car is going to, the SoC is going to look like, right? So which are the interfaces? So you have LPDDR5, which is for the memory. Then you have Ethernet for connectivity. Then you have HDMI for display, and maybe you have ADCs and DACs, I mean, to talk to a lot of sensor in the ecosystem. And in order to do a lot of processing, you have embedded vision and the kind of processes. And what I see is, if you look at most of the current generation SoCs, right, which are, I mean, most of the people are talking about like 5 nanometer, right? So I definitely see the migration of these kind of infotainment system moving to 5 nanometer, right? I mean, in the future. Although most of the current solutions are going to be still in 16 and 14 nanometer, but I definitely see the migration towards 5 nanometer, because the dependency on the safety, because it's an ADAS system, is relatively lesser in terms of, so we definitely see a migration. So initially it's going to be the older process node like 16 and 14, and over the next few years it's going to be 5 nanometer, but each of the companies are going to decide based on what they feel is appropriate, right? So this was nothing but the ADAS domain controller, right, having connecting to the Ethernet, right? Now let's look at the infotainment system, right? So infotainment system has basically the similar architecture, right? So what you have is you have your AMBA-EXA interconnect. You have a lot of acceleration for DSP engines and sensor controls, HDMI and maybe interfaces and additional graphic cores and so on. You have for Ethernet connectivity, you've got Ethernet cores, PCI Express, and maybe you have a couple of USB cores as well. And for storage, you have SD, MMC, and QSPI, and so on. Functional safety, and you have your in-house embedded processing ecosystem, right? Apart from that, what you're going to have is, I think, of course, correct me for the spelling, infotainment system, right? So there's another system which is also going to be connected, is a V2X. V2X is an ecosystem where the chip is kind of talking to the rest of the ecosystem as well, right? Like, for example, the pedestrian ecosystem, it is going to talk to, right? So, for example, somebody is going in the car, right? And as he is going in the car, there are going to be traffic lights, right? So these traffic lights are actually going to tell when it is going to be on and off, and that information is going to come via the V2X ecosystem, right? So V2X is vehicle to everything. So you have, basically the pedestrian mobile phone can actually communicate to the car which is going. The traffic signal can also communicate to the car which is going on the ecosystem. The sensors which are put in the car also can kind of communicate, right? So this is the architecture, pretty much the SoC architecture for the infotainment system which is there, right? Okay. Now let me talk about the, and as I said, one of the things is, because most of these chipsets, they are not going to migrate into the latest process node at the earliest. So they are going to be working on probably much more stable process node like 28 nanometer, and over the next few years they will migrate into much more stable process node like 16 and 14 nanometer, right? So the way I see is the infotainment system is going to have a slower migration from a process node, because it's not about packing a lot of electronics, and it's also about the safety, and it's also about the stability of the solution, right? So the infotainment system is going to be migrating slightly slowly compared to the ADAS system, right? And the third part of the ecosystem, which I'm going to talk, where the SoC is going to play a significant amount of role, right, is the automotive gateway, right? This is nothing but a chip, a switch, right? So what it's going to do is, this is the ecosystem. If you look at the gateway, right, this is where the gateway is, right? So what it does is, there's a connectivity interface, there's an infotainment interface, there's an ADAS interface, there's a powertrain interface, there's a connectivity interface, right? So this gateway is responsible for talking to, chip is responsible, or SoC is responsible for talking to all the people in the ecosystem and communicate out the packet, transfer the data as required, right? So this is how the architecture of the SoC is going to be looking like. So there is going to be a packet forwarding engine which is responsible for receiving the packet and forwarding to the right subsystem. There is going to be a multi-port switch which is responsible for identifying the right port and switching the data to the right port. And there is going to be a packet processing. Basically what you have is, which layer the packet is, like layer 1, layer 2, layer 3, all the processing is going to happen in the packet processing engine, right? Apart from that, from an interface perspective, these are like the standard, any SoC which is going to have, like, you have your in-house processing, where you have your processor, and you have your data path, and you have a embedded logic and few security. And the other part is going to be connectivity as well, right? And which is going to be there, right? And if you are talking to some kind of a low speed kind of device, which are still going to be sitting on a CAN or a LIN and on an I2C interface, right? Now coming to the process node, right? So this is also going to be not adopting the latest process node as the industry, which 5 nanometers and so on, right? Functional safety is definitely important. So this is going to be probably currently on the 28 nanometer process node, and you will see a migration towards maybe 16 to 14 nanometer, right? From a technology perspective, right? So because automotive, two things, the supply chain is fairly complicated. Second thing is it needs to go to the OEM, and from there it needs to go to the car manufacturer. So they are always hesitant to kind of migrate to the latest process node also that is one of the thing. And safety, because the car has also got a longer shelf life, right? We don't know the latest process node, what is the shelf life of that particular chip, right? So the chip needs to be not only it can't be a mobile grade kind of a chipset, it needs to be an automotive grade kind of a chipset, right? So this is how the architecture of the automotive gateway is going to look like, right? So what you have, I think I have kind of explained it to you, right? So what you have is you have your infotainment system, you have your ADAS and powertrain, and you have comfort, connectivity, right? And then you have the gateway, right? So this is called the zonal architecture, right? So earlier the architecture was something like this, where you were just dumping in a lot of ECUs and getting them connected. You are adding, a lot of cable. Like for example, if you keep adding so many ECUs, the weight of the cable itself is like 75 kgs. The wiring harness itself is like so heavy in the cars, right? Because you've been like pumping so much electronics without really making a lot of sense, right? So what is going to evolve is the next generation car is going to use Ethernet, automotive Ethernet, right? Which is, although the connectivity grade is, the cable is going to be much more lightweight because it is twisted pair and so on, right? So it is, and the weight is also going to be fairly less on the automotive Ethernet something. So it's going to save a lot of weight on the car as well, right? So it's not just electronically light, but we cannot go away from so many ECUs or so many sensings. Those are going to be there in the ecosystem. The only thing is it's going to be much more organized, and there are going to be SoCs which are going to be sitting on various domains and communicating. So this is pretty much like your data center, or you can call it like your mobile architecture, or pretty much similar architectures are going to be there compared to. And here you had a lot of microcontrollers and so on, right? If you talk Renaissance chips and all that, you have this low-end microcontrollers which were being used. So you're going to use a high-end SoCs with high-speed data transfers as well as high-speed communication. Now coming to, I hope that is kind of clear. Now coming to these SoC interfaces, right? So which are those chip and which are those interfaces which are going to be there, right? So there are going to be, these are some of the standard interfaces I have kind of pulled out, right? So let me talk about from an interface perspective, right? So you're going to be having PCI Express, Gen 5, then you have for storage, you have eMMC and UFS, and maybe PCI Express, and you have MIPI, D-PHY, C-PHY, and so on, right? And you have Ethernet, right, which is like a 10 gigabits per second, right, which is a high-speed Ethernet, right? And in terms of memory, you're going to have an LPDDR4-5. Maybe we'll have to see how it goes. And in order to have its own processing, you're going to need a lot of graphics core vision processors. Maybe there is going to be a new category of vision processors which are going to come. Like companies like Amberla and all that have been working on vision processors. So then there are going to be functional safety processors. Functional safety. So one of the things about automotive standard, right? So they have defined something called ASIL, right? ASIL AB, CDE, right? So these are safety grades which are there within the automotive, right? So all the chipsets which are coming have to comply with respect to the functional safety characteristics defined by the automotive space, right? Of course, there is SoC level safety. Security is going to be important because these cars are not only they're managed on electronics, they are connected cars, right? So they have edge level control where a lot of autonomous driving is happening, plus they have a cloud infrastructure where a lot of information gets logged and kind of gets controlled, right? So guys, so I think I'm pretty much done in terms of how the SoCs are going to look like and what is the SoC architecture of the ecosystem looks like. So if you have any specific questions, I'm open to questions and I can take it forward from there. Yeah. So yeah.
I'd like to request our audience to kindly put up any questions if they have any. They can directly ask to our research person, or they can drop their questions in the chat box.
Yeah. Yes, guys. So I think I'm done with my presentation. I hope you enjoyed it and learned something from an automotive space. So I'm happy to take any more questions right now.
Sir, good morning, sir.
Yes.
Uh,
Tell
uh,
me.
Sir, actually, you are telling about that gradual increase of the electronic products in the car. So in 2030, you are told that most of the 50% electronics will be there. So what are
No,
all the
so I think you've not. I mean, let me explain that, right? So what I've said is, I think that slide is what is the cost of the car. If the cost of the car is like,
cost? Yeah.
yeah. So cost of the car is say 5-10 lakh rupees, right? 5 lakh rupees is going to be electronics.
Okay, sir.
Yeah. So
So
what's the question?
yeah. So what are all the things? Sir? In engine also, it will be replacing with the electronics things, or the conventional engine will be.
So one of the things, see, I think people are getting confused with this. See, one is electrification of the car, right? EV
Yes,
cars,
sir.
right? Yeah. So I think that's another stream, right? I mean, yeah, that is definitely going to happen, right? No doubt about the cars are going to be made EV, right? That is no doubt about that, right? So apart from that, that is what I said. If you looked at this slide, right? One is definitely the EV powertrain and so on, right? Apart from that, right, when the car becomes autonomous, right? That was the presentation all about, right? So if you look at the presentation, once the car becomes autonomous, right? This is where the level 5 of the car comes in, right? The
Yes, sir.
autonomous car, right? So this is how the car will look like. Okay. And the infotainment system, the connectivity subsystem, the comfort and domain controller, the powertrain, the ADAS, this system which I have shown these are the SOCs which are going to come in and play. Got it?
Okay, sir. Okay.
So these are the chips, SOCs, or maybe I was assuming that people know about what is SOC, right? System on chip, right? So this is a chip. So this is nothing but a chip, right? So these are the chips which are coming.
Okay, sir. Okay.
So this is the electronics. So, so there is going to be conventional, which is ECUs are going to be there. Okay, sorry. So the ECUs are going to be there. These ECUs are going to talk to the SOC, system on chip, and that chip is going to talk to another chip. So this is what this was the presentation all about, right?
Okay,
This
sir.
is the chip, and this is the process node of that chip. SOC is nothing but the chip, right? I mean, system on chip, right? So this is the chip.
Okay. Okay.
I hope I have answered your question.
Yes, sir. Sir, I could able to understand. So that autonomous, this kind of thing will be different from the electrification of the vehicle.
See,
That
the journey, what I see is electrification will be probably the immediate 2022, 2025 will happen within that. Autonomous will be the next one.
Okay. So what is the difference between the eyes of and so you have, in one slide you have put that eyes of. Sir, can you put that slide, sir, once?
Which slide number?
That the range of change from manual to the
Okay, level 1, level 0 to
level.
level.
Yeah, yes, sir. Sir.
Yeah. So what's the question again here?
Eyes of means
You can't see it. आँख से नहीं देखोगे, eyes off.
okay.
He is not looking directly.
Oh, he is going to see some display or something.
Yeah, basically, see, if eyes off means, so hands off means you're not controlling using your hands, right? Eyes off means you don't have to see how the car is going. You just close your eyes and the car keeps going.
Okay. So what is the difference between this kind of thing and the mind off and other total autonomous?
so that's what is a grade, right? See, what is going to happen? The fully autonomous system is going to have complete ADAS system. It's going to have the rest of the system. Probably here, there will not be a ADAS system, right?
Okay.
Like what will happen is, so there will be, like for example, cars are going to get smart, right? And if you buy a Mercedes or an Audi, this car is already smart, right? But it is just not prevalent across the low end category, right? But what is the shift is across the industries, all the cars are going to be shifting across. So let's not confuse. See, a lot of people, I think, get confused with autonomous car and electric cars, right? Let's not confuse them, right? Electric cars are meant for, battery management system, BMS comes into play, and you're charging, and they're replacing the fuel part and they're replacing the engine part, right? That is the electrification of the car means, right? But autonomous car means the car can go. I mean, if you replace a battery, you still drive an electric car, you still need to manage your navigation, correct?
Yes,
The
sir.
car will not go on its own, correct?
Yeah.
Right? You still have to see, oh, some passenger is coming, I need to turn left, turn right, I need to apply brakes and all that. Doesn't change, right? Right.
And-
This one, the slides which I'm talking about is with respect to the, how do we migrate from probably the car to a fully autonomous car, right? Like Google started that project and it has been happening, but what they realized was they can't reach level 5, right? What they realize is the migration will happen slowly. So somewhere in between 2022 25, there will be electrification of the car, which is replacing the fuel and which is replacing the engine, but this part will remain, right? That doesn't change, right? Because you still need systems like ADAS, you still need systems like infotainment systems, which will make it more smarter and so on, right? So definitely that part doesn't change. Yeah. So I was more kind of talking with respect to the autonomous migration. Of course, I was not talking from an electrification perspective, right? Because electrification is more around the powertrain, and there are more microcontrollers in that rather than SoCs. I mean, of course, you are seeing a lot of BMS which have a wireless interface and which are going to communicate, right? But most of them are around, using a microcontroller kind of a system, right? Because the topic was around the SoCs, right? So this was talking more from that perspective. Yeah. I hope I've answered your question. Yeah.
Yes, sir. Good able to understand.
Excuse me, sir. Sorry for the interruption. We have one more question in the chat box dropped by Mr. Rahul. He is asking the different types of SoC used in differentiating an automatic car and autonomous car.
Automatic car and autonomous car. So see, one of the things is automatic cars will not have SoCs, as simple as that. Right? Automatic cars are not going to have SoCs, right? Only the autonomous cars will need to have SoCs, right? I mean, you can see if you look at most of the cars, right? They use currently CAN and LIN and interface to communicate to the rest of their ECUs, right? So most of the cars can work, automatic cars can work with that kind of an ecosystem. But when you're talking about, driverless car, right? Which is autonomous car, right? Where the machine itself is running on its own. That is where you need SoCs to come in and play. Okay. And this is where the direction of the industry is headed. So what you're seeing is probably not there in the industry yet. This is what you will see in the year 2030, or as a car manufacturer adopts, right? Most of the slides, what you're seeing right now is like, the work under development, right? And this is the direction in which the industry is headed. Like you're getting this kind of a knowledge, which is like a 5-10 years ahead of what's really happening, guys. So that's why you'll not find a lot of literature on this space, right? So automatic cars are going to still use those ECUs and all that, but autonomous cars are different, right? They need the high, SoCs and high-speed things to communicate. Yeah, okay. Any other questions?
Yes, sir. One more question is dropped in the chat box by Mr. Ankur. How the communication delay among the components of a SoC impacts its performance, and how can it be handled in a real-time scenario, such as controlling the car using multiple SoCs?
Yeah, so one of the things, as I said, right? So what is going to happen is these SoCs are going to communicate via the Ethernet interface, right? So Ethernet interface, if you look at the slide also, right? So these are not normal Ethernet speeds, right? So these are like 100, not even 100 base T, right? I mean, let me the interfaces, right? So these interfaces are at speed of like say 5 to 10 gigabits per second, right? So what is going to happen is all the SOCs, you can imagine these are SOCs, right? These SOCs are going to communicate over a 5-10 gigabits line onto the Ethernet switch, right? And then it is going to kind of communicate, and this is going to communicate to the connectivity, this is going to communicate to the cloud, and then there are going to be these ECUs which are going to kind of also receive the information as it is required, right? So various SOCs are, if you look at all the chips or SOCs, the standard interface for connectivity is going to be Ethernet for in-vehicle communication. And if the chips have to communicate from one chip to another chip, probably it's going to be PCI Express, right, which is going to be used. Right? That's the kind of interface which is going to be used. Yeah. Okay. Any other questions, guys? So.
Hello, sir.
Yes.
Sir, you have also talked about the OEM that is involved in a
Yeah.
in a
That's the
car.
current system. Yeah. Yeah.
Yes. So in a automatic or a autonomous car, there has to be a OEM that has to be highly influenced by AI technology, right?
See, that is where but the question is, will they be there in the future, right? How much part, see, if you look at cars like Tesla and so on, right? What they've done is they have vertically integrated the entire ecosystem, right? They are telling we don't want to go to these OEMs, right? We won't go to Continental, we won't go to Bosch, we will not go to any of them. We will develop our entire system in-house, right? When the Google was doing the car, it also took the similar approach, right? So we don't know how these companies will exist. And one more thing, what may happen is companies like Volkswagen and so on, right, which are actually leading the kind of market in terms of the market share for cars, may decide to have a separate semiconductor direct integration into their ecosystem. Because see, what has happened is, the car industry is like a 60-70-year-old industry, right? And they have optimized based on Toyota coming in and the Kanban process and so on, right? They have developed their manufacturing and supply chain expertise over the last 20 years, right? But it's getting disrupted. Because the mechanical part of the system is vanished, right? It's becoming electronic, right? So definitely we don't know, right? See, the interesting part is how the ecosystem is going to play out. Will the OEM players remain? Or will the semiconductor companies directly work with the car manufacturers? I don't know, right? We'll have to really see how the ecosystem evolves. Maybe there will be another player. I don't know, right? So that's where because finally industries are defined by businesses which can actually win, right? So if any companies are able to create new business models, they can win and capture the market. So we don't know how things will evolve. But what's for sure is the market is going to be disrupted. It's like the Kodak era, right? People used to take photos on the camera, right? And print it out, right? No longer people do digital, right? So what happens? The entire ecosystem is wiped out, right?
Okay, thank you, sir.
So there is going to be a disruption, right? There is a disruption is for sure, right? So, but the question is how people are going to take advantage. Are people going to be caught sitting ducks, or are people going to take advantage of the disruption and capture the market? We'll have to see. But what is for sure is electronics are going to come and chips are going to come, and how businesses are going to shape up is something which time will decide, right? We don't know, right? Nobody knows that answer. Companies, that's why businesses die over time, right? If they don't adopt to the latest shift in the market, right?
Okay. Okay, sir. Thank you.
Yeah. Okay. Any other questions?
Do you have any further questions?
Yeah. Okay. No, I don't think there's any other question. So,
Yes, sir.
okay. So thanks everyone for attending, and I hope you enjoyed the session, and I hope it was thought-provoking and you learned something slightly different. And I thank the organizers for helping and giving me an opportunity to come and talk to you guys, and I hope you've learned something
So thank
different.
you very much, sir. Sir, actually, I was in the class. That's why I'm not interacted in between. So the
Okay,
organ members are there.
okay,
So,
okay.
sir, because actually I've already joined in another window, so I'm checking that one, but not interacted in that meantime.
Okay. No, no problem,
Thank you
Dr.
very much, sir.
Shashank.
And we have already faced many questions and already discussed now many things. So
Yeah.
we'll contact offline after that.
Okay, man. Thanks, Dr. Shashank. Thanks everyone for joining. So if there are any questions, you can write to me and let me know if you have anything specific. And
Well,
enjoy.
well, sir, thank you so much for sparing your valuable time among us. And indeed, time is very precious, and you spared your valuable time among us. And you gave. It was really an informative session upon this impact of SOC on automotive sector. Thank you so much, sir, for this interactive as well as informative session. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. So I'm going to sign off. Thanks, everyone. I hope you'll have continue with the next session. Thanks, Shashank, Dr. Shashank. Bye.
Thank you, sir.
Peers, now we are already here at the end of session number 2 for this online FTP. And again at 3:30, we are going to meet for the session number 3, which will be delivered by Professor Dr. Devi Prasad Priyabrata Acharya from NIT Rourkela upon the topic clock management in SOC. So again, dear participants, we will meet at 3:30 p.m. for the session number 3. Thank you all for your participation till now.